My name is Phyllis McDonald Maddie. I live in New Brunswick, Canada right now. I'm originally from Newfoundland, if anyone knows Newfoundland. I grew up in a little fishing village, 1,000 people, 7 churches. So I had a very fear-based childhood. And so whenever I went to sleep at night, I thought if I died in my sleep, I would go to hell, basically. And anyway, went through the years, had a pretty good childhood, went to nursing. I became a nurse at 20, and I nursed for 25 years. I ended up, my first husband, my first marriage was very controlling, abusive. That ended in 2004. But after the birth of my last child, he's almost 21 now, it was very traumatic. I had a postpartum an abruption, so the placenta was separating, and it was a traumatic delivery. I hemorrhaged, so it was like I was fighting for my life, fighting for his life, and I was never the same after I woke up. I had severe pain everywhere. Chronic fatigue. I developed irritable bowel, but as mothers and women and nurses especially, you just go back to your life and you get on with it. But I felt like every bone was broken in my body when all that happened to me. So I just continued, went back to work as a nurse and being a mother and a wife. And then in 2011, I had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I developed multi-chemical sensitivity. So I ended up leaving work in 2011, and I tried everything. I tried all the drugs. I even had xylocaine injected in my veins at a pain clinic. My pain was so bad. I didn't get relief from anything. I tried everything, spent a fortune. And it was 3 years ago, this fall. I was in a severe, severe depression, and I wanted to die. I didn't see the reason for me living anymore. And I remember my husband was away in Australia working, and every day we talked or Skyped. I was just in tears. I had no will to live anymore. And I was big at facts and reading and articles. I always was reading something, doing something, but I never ever went on YouTube. Never ever went there. And I remember it was a Saturday night. I thought, I'm going to go check. So I went in and I typed in anxiety, depression, MCS, and in the list that popped up was FasterEFT. And I went in and I listened to it, and I thought, initially, I'm doing this to myself. Like, how would anyone do this to themselves? So anyway, I listened, and I called my husband, and I said, there's this gentleman on YouTube, Robert Smith, who does this technique that I think I'm really going to try. And I did, and in 2 weeks, the MCS was gone. The pain was gone. My depression lifted. Like, it was incredible. It was hard to even comprehend, but I was diligent. I tapped every day. I made my peace list. I went in every day, even if I wasn't feeling sick that day or whatever. I would pick a memory and I would tap it till it was gone, and it would flip. I remember the first time a memory flipped in my brain, I thought, oh my God, what just happened here? So it was pretty amazing. And to be here now with all these people who have inspired me, and to I just finished level 3 in Oklahoma this month. So being a practitioner, so I'm really excited about that. And I am anxious up here. This is something I'm working on. Robert makes us get up front, and I'm getting better each time I do it. So anyway, this is available to anybody. If you're suffering, you can heal yourself. It's amazing. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody.
I had to write mine down. There's people who are really good at doing like 1 or 2 illnesses, and I was kind of a chameleon. I was doing lots. So I'm just going to read you my list. And I had to write it down because I don't remember it most of the time now. So I had insomnia, over-the-top fear, nightmares, super high cortisol levels that was related to adrenal oversufficiency and then followed by adrenal fatigue, food sensitivities. I had infections all the time, sinus infections, everything else, really just poor immune system. Alopecia, acid reflux, allergies, irritable bladder, IBS, tachycardia, angina, arrhythmia, heart flutter, anxiety, panic attacks, phobias, migraines, tension headaches, nosophobia, numbness and paresthesia, back pain, neck pain, carpal tunnel, chronic fatigue, constipation, cramps, depression, dry eyes, fibromyalgia, facial tics, body twitches, gastritis, hemorrhoids, hypoglycemia, hip pain, malabsorption, peripheral neuropathy, piriformis syndrome, pyloric spasms, restless legs, stomach aches, dyes, teeth sensitivity, vertigo, and tendinitis. And I think I forgot a couple. Well, a lot of these ladies are kind of the poster children for the fast flips, and it seems to look really easy. I'm going to just tell you, I'm different from that. When it comes to FasterEFT, I'm on the little bus. Seems like things go slower. So I've been working on this. I started in late 2012 and decided to go right through in 2013. I became a practitioner. And I've been working on myself this whole time, for the past four to 5 years. And I don't get big dramatic flips. I work on things and it's less. And I go back and look at it and I work on it again and it's less. And I just see things dropping off and out of my life. That's my evidence that it works. I keep at it and I don't have this anymore. I don't have that anymore. It drops away, and on the emotional stuff, it works the same way. I work on a pretty huge memory, and it was sort of an unsatisfying end. But later, we were at a training, and I found myself singing out loud. It was kind of like a Robert story, where my mother had tried to strangle me when I was singing to my doll as a little kid. And after that, I didn't sing out loud anymore. But we were at a conference and I thought I was singing under my breath. And someone across the room said, "You have a nice voice." It's like, wow, I was singing out loud. My subconscious mind was telling me it's safe now. But that was my first sign that was a successful, working on that memory. So for some of you, you may look at it and you think, this isn't working. I don't get the big dramatic flips. It doesn't seem to be better. But if you do it and you keep at it and you're persistent, that's a long list of stuff that isn't with me anymore. There's a little now on that list, and it's like a big fat donut hole. And you heard me talk the other day about having a stressor come into my life. These people, these things, they don't live here anymore. Sometimes they come to visit, and I send them on their way. But they don't live here anymore. And I want to give you guys hope that you got stuff going on, it can change. You change the way you think, you work on yourself, the stuff will go away, and you'll have a fuller life.
We have to clap for you. So I'm Tiffany Jeffers, and I'm from Virginia. Okay, so I didn't bring my list, but it was very long. And I think the key, the main ones, was severe pain in 2000. Well, I guess we could probably start a little earlier. Okay, childhood trauma, went into the military at 17, military trauma, date rape, military, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and then I got sober. Great idea. But then I got addicted to pain. Hello. And then illness and disease. And then, so the big bullet things that were problems for me was depression, anxiety, irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease. I had gestational trophoblastic neoplasia. So I had a tumor I was supposed to be pregnant with twins, but I had a tumor and a baby, and the baby didn't make it, and so then I had to have surgery, and then the tumor started growing back, and it tricked my body that it was kind of telling my body that I was pregnant again, but I really wasn't. So the tumor was growing back, so I had to do chemotherapy, stuff like that. So it wasn't very fun, and definitely wouldn't recommend it. But I was at the VA, so they were also giving me tons and tons of medications, and I did a pain clinic when I was 25. I'm 41 right now. I did off and on 20 years of talk therapy, and I would eventually have to work with I had a team, the psychologist and the psychiatrist and the doctor and then the specialist, yay. So it's if you're going to be on medication, you have to see the counselor and then the counselor, and then I was like, I need more medication because now I'm really jacked up talking about these memories. But it's okay. I know it works for some people, but for me, it was just not helping me. But anyway, so that's kind of the majority of it. And I came 4 years ago, and Heather, I heard about her story, was super excited. Sorry, Heather, but I thought your stuff was worse than mine. It was. But anyways, I was like, yay, somebody finally topped me, it was like, all right. But I felt so hopeful that she, a friend of ours actually said, Tiffany, you've been through similar things. You have the childhood trauma, the military trauma, it's Heather's going to this thing and she's became a practitioner and she's better. And I was like, no way. So anyways, I found out she was better, came to the training. First I went to a transformational weekend, and I was actually able to, I worked with Robert like Andrea just did, and I stepped off the chair and I was like, my pain was gone. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. But I persisted. And I think that's the thing about me and Heather's story. We persisted. I continued to get sessions pretty much every week for a long time. And then I tapered into 2 weeks, and then eventually three weeks. And I went to a live level 1 training, live level 2. Every time I would come back healthier. And my husband was like, yay. My kids were like, woo, mommy can pick me up now. She can do all these cool things now, instead of sleeping all the time. So anyways, it was a really cool transformation, and I'm still growing and changing, I'm still a regular person and things still show up. I was telling Robert and Heather, I've had some triggers with the smoke in this building. I haven't been around this much smoke, wow, in a long time, and stuff has shown up. My little nose is trying to run a lot, and I'm tapping. So it's so cool. I love the tapping because you can take it wherever you go, and it's very practical. But yeah, so that's the basics of my story, and I'm really grateful for FasterEFT.
All right, so my name is Heather McKean. I live in Maui, and it's a big sacrifice for me to ever leave there. So, no, I'm just kidding. I've shared this before recently, that it's actually difficult for me to talk about this because I don't remember much of it. It's not real to me anymore. And so it's digging into a place that feels a little unauthentic or inauthentic to me to say these things, but I know that it's helpful, so I'll dig in. That's important because I actually used to make a living and travel around the world speaking about how much I had overcome, how, I had overcome my past, and yes, I had some physical challenges, but look that I'm up here speaking, and aren't I awesome and strong for doing this? I made a living for doing that, really. And I would have told you if you would have come up to me and said, oh, what a terrible childhood, because I would share about that, and oh, isn't it great that you're here? Yeah, it's great. I learned a lot and I'm so strong, but it doesn't bother me anymore, is what I would say. I've really gotten over all of that. Now, how I thought I had gotten over it, I'm not sure. I really didn't do a lot of therapy. I didn't do a lot of anything. But what I had done was stuffed it all down and not felt it and figured out different coping mechanisms over the years. So finally, my body had had enough and was leaking out all of this emotion in all these different ways. And so it had been showing up since I was a child. I come from a family who has the wonderful skill of alcoholism and drug addiction and have been practicing it for generations. So also physical and sexual abuse, something that they were, good at, and they kept going and kept doing. And I was sort of a sickly kid. I had strep throat every other day. It seemed like I had all kinds of stuff that would happen. If there was some random thing going around, I got it. I played a lot and was, fairly strong, but I always had something going on. And I remember it was a staple at my house. When you started feeling bad, Mom would say, well, go get some antibiotics out of the cupboard. We had cupboards full of antibiotics. So I'd pick an antibiotic and I'd start taking one. I'd feel better after a couple days and I'd stop taking them. And we had just drugs to choose from all the time. And about 16 years old, I got diagnosed. I got brought in for depression and all these things. My mom had been slipping me Xanax for years if I felt any sort of, I'd go up to did some acting and other stuff, and if I would get nervous, she'd just give me a Xanax. Like, here, you need a Xanax. I was like, okay, I need a Xanax. So I went into the doctor. I got diagnosed with bipolar and manic depression. And I remember someone said to me, whether it was my mom or the doctor, said, we've run your blood tests and you have all of these chemical imbalances. So you are, this is your diagnosis, manic depressive and bipolar. And you're gonna need to be on this medication probably for the rest of your life. So they put me on some antidepressants and some other things, which I know now there's no blood test to be able to see that. But I had one somehow. I'm super talented. So I just kept being on different things. I thought that was going to be my medication. Now, I didn't like to be on medication because I thought it made me like my mother, so I'd kept going off. Then I'd have manic episodes, end up in the hospital or some fun place, and have to go back on in shame and all of those things. So fast forward to get married, and it was one thing after another. I had back pain, neck pain. I was seeing a spinal specialist. I was having injections in my neck and back, x-rays, MRIs, and they were saying your back or your spine is the spine of a 70-year-old. This is when I was in my 20s, early 20s. I went to a neurologist who said with what was happening with the pinched nerves and everything it was affecting my brain. And I have all these different tests. I'm having stacks of MRIs, and they're saying, this is what's wrong with you. The neurologist told me, I was a horse trainer at the time, said I couldn't ride horses anymore because one wrong move and I was going to be paralyzed. And I'm like, okay. But I kind of got used to this. Every time I would go in, I would have some diagnosis or something that the doctor said that just was going to radically change my life. I kept going and thinking, well, I'm going to do it in spite of. It was the silent sufferer thing. I'm the martyr, that even though the doctor said this, I'm making it, and I'm so strong because I'm making it. And by the time I got married, I was having so much pain. I was on many, many painkillers, muscle relaxers, everything, the steroids, all the things you can think of. I would have to have a triple prescription. It was like trying to rob a bank to get my prescriptions, because I had to have triple signed prescriptions to come in to get and they would look at me like, oh, you're one of those, as they're doling me out all these high dosages of painkillers. I'd end up in the hospital, they'd put me on a morphine drip that didn't touch the pain. It was just over and over again. I had a hard time getting pregnant. I had previously 3 surgeries for endometriosis. And so then they told me, the doctor said, you have to get pregnant. This was before I was married. You have to get pregnant if you want to get rid of this. And I'm like, she's like, there's like banks for that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go get pregnant. I don't have a husband. I don't have to, so I can be healed from my endometriosis. And I considered it. I actually looked up a few sperm banks. It's like, no, this is just too weird. I guess I'll just never have babies. And so I did get pregnant, but after many, many, many issues, many miscarriages, fun stories with all of that. So got pregnant, and then my body was trying to chemically abort the whole time. So I was on bed rest and 7 injections a day to keep a baby in me. And so I was covered in bruises from because my husband's not a nurse, but I couldn't give myself these injections by myself in my bottom, and they were the thick, like these big gauged needles and this thick medicine, and you're sticking it in. I had lumps and bruises all up and down my whole, either side of my tushy.
If you're feeling this,
Yeah, tap. Because it's all not real. These are all stories. So finally did have my kids, but after that I took a massive tumble physically, where I was back in for spinal fusion. So I've had vertebrae fused in my neck. I've had surgery on my back, and they were supposed to, the doctor was like, we've looked at your x-rays, your spine's falling apart, everything's bone on bone, so we're probably going to eventually fuse to where you'll have little to no range of motion in your neck, but hopefully you'll be out of pain. Hopefully. Every surgery I had, I would come out and I would still be in pain. And so I was scheduled for another back surgery at this point. I've got the spinal fusion. I couldn't even pick up my newborn. I had to stop breastfeeding because I was so full of drugs, and couldn't touch her because I couldn't pick up a carton of milk, they would say, so I couldn't hold my baby for 3 months. And it went on and on. I got, oh boy, the diagnoses are just, it doesn't even seem possible, I know. But every time I went in, a new diagnosis: chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I'd already been diagnosed with celiac disease. I had every irritable bowel syndrome thing you could think of, hives, rashes, food allergies, everything allergy, chemical sensitivities to everything. And then I got some really fun diagnosis, which was Lyme disease. So I went in, saw a Lyme doctor. She was the top Lyme doctor in the Virginia area. And through her, I got to go in and have IV infusions twice a week. I saw a rheumatologist at this point. So I had a rheumatologist, thyroid disease, hypothyroidism, also Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, which are 2 separate things, but I seem to have them both. I had a goiter that disappeared, and it was just one thing after another. Then I got another condition, they said, called POTS, which is supposed to be really rare. Lucky for me, I worked with one of the top cardiologists in all of the DC area, so I got to go in and find out even more about what I had and all kinds of other people to play with. And so by the time I showed up at the first seminar, I had on my phone a rheumatologist, a cardiologist, my spine surgeon, and then my Lyme doctor. So all of which were people I saw on a very regular basis. I had to have my blood work done weekly. I had all these, it was fun. So I had a doctor who had to come to my house because I couldn't leave my bed at this point. My husband was carrying me to and from the bathroom, and sometimes I was in so much pain I would be screaming. And I got to a point where right before I came, I said, if I keep having pain like this, I have to die. I didn't want to die. I had never really been suicidal other than when I was a teenager, and I was suicidal every other day, it seemed. But I didn't want to die, but I could not live in that pain any longer. I had 2 little kids at home watching all of this, and a husband. I had to go on full disability, a husband who was taking care of everything. And the doctor came to my house, and he said, have you ever heard of tapping? And I said, no. And he said, well, listen, I know you're open to, I know you tried everything. I know you're open to different things. Why don't you check it out? So I went online. I found the Ortner's, the tapping solution, I think it was what it was called. I watched a little bit of that, and I was like, my opinion, I was like, there's something wrong with these people. I'm not sure who they are or what they're doing, but this does not seem right to me. And I kind of could have think like, okay, maybe it's trapped emotion in my body. Maybe, I guess I can roll with that. That's fine. But if I have to do this, and this and this and this for like every trauma I've ever been through. I was like, I'm going to die sick. I might as well just move on. So I did tap in FasterEFT, and it took me straight to Robert. I watched half a video, and then I called a practitioner, and I was like, can you please work with me? I'm not sure what it was. Robert seemed real. And I thought this might be something that could possibly work for me, but nothing had worked for me, and I had that program really well. So I called the practitioner. She said, I'm going to a training, practitioner training, and I was like, you know what, I probably need that, because I'm so messed up, I probably need the whole training just to figure out how to fix me. And I didn't even realize Robert pulled people up in front of the chair. I didn't know that was a thing. I'd watched half a video. So the first day, I ended up in the chair. And then probably most of you have seen my video. Now, I don't have any of that pain. And really from that point where he tapped on me, people think that it happened like that. It did happen like that in my mind. Now that my body caught up with more and more and more tapping. But it was before I got in the chair that my mind said, oh my gosh, I'm doing this to myself. And I had a rare for me moment of positivity, because I was very good at being negative, clearly. And I said, okay, if I have really created all of these rare diseases, I mean, I could not even remember all of them. I'd have another suitcase just to bring my meds along to come to Oklahoma City. If I can do all of this, I am so powerful. I am such an amazing creator. And I would never have normally looked at things that way. And I said, I can create the best life ever, and I don't need to do this stuff anymore. Then I got up in the chair, and I saw that it actually worked. My mind flipped from that point on. And my body still is my primary way of knowing if there is emotion happening in my life. And so it does still speak, and it still sometimes does really fun, rare things. I was just sharing yesterday, I ended up in the infectious disease doctor earlier in the year. And I walked in and I said, okay, so I know that my blood tests tell you that I have some either rare form of liver cancer or some other strange infectious disease. I get that. I'm going to change it. I've got some emotional stuff right now that I haven't been dealing with in the ways that I know. Give me a month. If nothing's changed in a month, I'll do your little protocols and I'll do your drugs and stuff, but I'm going to come back and show you that it's gone. And he was like, okay. And I went and I worked on myself and I got sessions and I handled it. And I came back. I had no doubt in my mind when he ran that blood. I was sitting there pretty smug when I went back into the office to get my bill of health, and he was like, it's gone. We must have had some stuff with the lab when if I could count how many times I've heard that, must have been a mistake in the lab, because we are now this, now that. And I just said, okay, thanks. I won't be seeing you again. And I know my body still is my main communicator, but my entire life has changed. My kids, who were also diagnosed with Lyme disease, and then my husband after that, they're all well. And my kids got well quickly as I got well. So I could start to see it happening with my kids, because I'm thinking, I need to do this to my kids. I needed to work on me. And as I worked on me, my kids miraculously healed and didn't need medication anymore. And it's been an incredible adventure, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, because I really was on the verge of dying. And I had gone in delivering kidney failure. 180 drugs in a day will do that to you. But I had gone in delivering kidney failure just months before I showed up at Robert's at the seminar. So anyway, I mean, it's all stories to me now. I don't relate to it at all. I don't feel, oh, you're so strong. I'm like, I was already strong. I'm not strong because I did that stuff. I did that stuff because I was weak in one way. Like I couldn't get in touch with my emotions and deal with them. Now, I am strong. I know whatever comes my way, I have a way to handle it. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. All right, so anybody have any questions for these guys? Okay, good.
Okay, as you were working on your, flipping your memories and stuff, and Heather, you talked about it took a while for your body to catch up. And I'm sure it's individual for every person how long it takes their body to catch up. But can you and Tiffany kind of give a time frame of how, were you seeing results in your body like that day, the next day? And I know the gal in the blue shirt also said, that she just kind of noticed, hey, I don't have that anymore.
There is an interesting way that some people process their emotions. Now, I've had clients who come in and we're dealing with emotional events. In the office, they say nothing's changed, it's still there. And then they leave. Days later, it's all gone. So for some people, like there is an identity that is still being challenged when you change memory. And there's also habits that people still do. So for some brains, like Jean's brain is a lot different than these other girls. And I mean, it's just how she processes information. She's very methodical, very logical. She got her shit organized, right? I mean, that's just how she processes information. So everyone may process their information differently, and the bodies may follow later or immediately. So everyone may do their own. So you want to answer that?
I had a lot of pain relief from the time that I sat with Robert here. If you watch the video, which I didn't remember at all, but he left me at a 2, I thought all the pain was gone. That was my story later. But I went back that night and that next morning and I did yoga in my room, which I had not done in a long time. I couldn't even, the amount of pain I was in to sit in that chair was monumental. So I was doing yoga. I was like trying to FaceTime my husband and be like, look what I can do. I was pushing it. That's a little bit of my nature though. I tend to push. But I immediately found relief in certain areas. And then after time, but I didn't identify as a sick person any longer. That's what switched for me. I wasn't sick anymore. So what I knew is that if there was any symptom in my body, it was what I had remembered. It was a memory of sickness, and I just needed to change it. But it wasn't real anymore. And so I would just like, oh, okay, thanks for coming up. Great. Now it's time for you to go. And I am now so easy and so fast that when someone was up here and we started tapping, I was like, burp. I'm like, ab-reacting, and I was like, oh, I'm already letting go. I don't even know what I'm working on, but it's already gone. So whatever comes up for me, sometimes I will feel, I started to get a sore throat, and I let it go for a couple of days, and then I was like, all right, you know what, I gotta deal with this. I did my little workup on myself, put all my stuff together. I was gonna go sit at the beach and do it. I was driving there, and I was like, oh man, it's gone already. I felt like I was swallowing glass for 3 days, and now I went to work on it and it was gone. Well, I still went out to the beach and enjoyed myself and made happy memories and sent it all to my throat from the memory before when I was swallowing glass, but I couldn't even get there anymore. Tried to do and it was gone. So I'm just super easy like that now.
I think another thing I would like you to address too is when you shared is like shaking the bottle up. When I tapped on you. Share that, because people got to understand that too.
Okay. So Robert tapped on me. I wasn't sure what I thought about him in many ways. I was not fired up he was actually going to touch me and that he was going to be that close to me and near me. It put me in a very funky place. So, but then I also felt like he shook a soda bottle and was like, and then kept it back up, and I left that day and I did yoga and I was happy, but I got increasingly ticked off for the rest of the week. I was there for a whole week. He tapped on me on Saturday. I had 6 days left to be with him. So I was angry, very angry. Now, I wasn't typically an emotion feeler of any sort. And so here I am, all this stuff is bottling, is coming unglued, and that is what I was trying to avoid with every other coping mechanism in my life, is don't let this stuff come out. If it starts, it's never going to stop, and I felt like he did that. He sort of uncorked it. I didn't have any other sessions from practitioners. Not smart. while I was there. But I tapped on myself nonstop. I woke up in the middle of the night tapping. I woke up and I was like, what the? Oh, that's me. I was like, what's happening to me? It was me tapping on me in the middle of the night because I was so much was coming up. But by the end of the time, I was peaceful, happy. I'm like, thanks, Robert, But it was so much like ready to explode. So I think that was part of it. I was learning how to deal with all this stuff that was now coming up. And I welcome it now for it to come up, the emotions. And I have 2 little girls. Who wants them to be little robots or have robot mommy? I need to be an emotional person. Now I'm smart enough to know what to do with it. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's good.
So my process was very funny. So when Robert worked on me, I got out of the chair. I was like, it's gone. It was amazing. And then I went to my hotel room and I started thinking thoughts. And it was very interesting. I was like, do those practitioners like me? And then I was like, I feel something in my neck. I was like, what in the world is that? And I finally, for the first time, could see that I was creating it, where before it was always like overlapping. It was like pain everywhere, like symptoms. So it was hard for me to realize that I was doing it. So I finally saw it and I started tapping in the hotel room, and I really started addressing emotional issues and pain and,
The stuff.
I actually had suicidal thoughts that night. Because I had a lot of junk in there. But I just kept addressing pain. And I just kept going back to painful memories. Thank you, I love you. I'm like, thank you. But it's just so beautiful that you can, I didn't have to wait for 2 months to get into the best psychiatrist to get better medication, you know what I mean? I really, or a psychologist, or, you know what I mean? I could actually, in the middle of the night, wake up and start tapping on myself and say, stop it. Stop it. My heart, I did the tachycardia thing. That was horrible. Anyways, not fun. I don't recommend that for anybody. But when my heart would start doing the symptoms, I'm like, let it go. And one big thing Robert said to me when I was on the chair, he said, well, what are you going to have instead of pain? And I was like, never thought of that, and he said, well, how about pleasure? And I was like, what a novel idea. I think I would like some of that. I was like, okay. So I went home and I was very happy. I'll just say it, to try out my new body. I love my husband, and I just wanted to see how things went, and it was lovely. But I will say this, I was very excited, and I was an athlete before. I was in the military. I had done a triathlon. I felt so good that I thought that I was me from back then, and forgot that I had been in bed for many years and not moving a lot. And so I had a really good idea. We were moving, and I jumped off of our cabinet counter, and I really hurt my body. And I was like, crud, oh man, I forgot I haven't actually worked on, strengthening my body. Oh, imagine that, muscles, So then I started going to the gym. I got a trainer. First trainer, I was like, I had fibromyalgia. And she's like, oh, we're just gonna, here you can just do just a little bit of weights. And then I wasn't growing, and I wasn't, feeling like, my muscles are changing and whatever. So then I got a Russian, trainer, and he's like, you've got this, you've got muscle memory. I'm going to push you, but I'm not going to push you, till you injure yourself. So, it was a process for me. I also had to relearn how to walk. I looked like I could walk, but I was constantly re-injuring myself. So I had to go in a pool, and I had to learn how to walk again. And I'm not kidding you guys, it was so embarrassing, but I just have to give you an example. So I'm in the water, so I have to learn, before, I don't know, life was like this, constantly, looking down, life sucked, and then I had to be like, okay, when I was in the pool, this is what I had to do. It was humiliating. I was in the military, okay? So I had to learn how to, walk in water, and they're telling me what to do with all these older people in the water. warm water pool. I was like, I'm an athlete, you know. I want to do the kettlebells, you know. So anyways, I just kept learning how to walk, and they're teaching me how to hold my stomach and, you know, do the core exercises and all that stuff. So it was humiliating, just being honest, but I tapped and worked through it. But I had a lot of fear at the gym. You know, I'm going to injure myself again, never going to get that life back again. I love physical movement. So anyways, tapped on tons of stuff. I'd come to Jean, I'd be like, oh, this thing happened. You know, when I jumped off the counter, I'm like, it happened, Jean. It's just physical, right? And she's like, well, what happened beforehand? She's like, well, have you considered it could possibly be emotions, you know, and stress? And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're kidding me. So anyways, it was a process for me. And I'll say this too, that I started doing affirmations. I was not happy. I was not strong. I was really weak. And my friend, actually, I was given guidance, like, okay, we had a 2-story house, like, okay, you're so weak, so just sleep, you know, lay down on the couch downstairs, and then when you get strong again, go back upstairs to the bedroom. I mean, literally, that's kind of how I was living. Like, it was so much, just go up the stairs, okay? So anyways, so then I just started saying affirmations, like I'm healthy, I'm strong, kind of like, you know, what he was encouraging to do. I started just doing affirmations, and I would tap on, you know, any resistance that came up, and I started believing it, and then I became stronger. So it was a process for me. It wasn't like, boom, overnight. But eventually I was on the bike again and doing kettlebells and working out with my husband at the gym and, you know, just, you know, really loving life again. And so, and in the pool, and the pool really healed me because I had this like link with exercise. You guys might have it, okay? It's weird. But I had a link that exercise was horrible. Like exercise, bad. I don't know what happened. So what I did was I tricked myself to say, well, we're gonna go have fun. So me and my kids and my husband would go in this pool, it was a warm water pool, and we would just swim and we would have fun. And I'm not kidding you, my range of motion, I was finally able to, because I was a swimmer before and I loved swimming, I was able to like really swim and it was just beautiful. So it was a process, but I just kept tapping, I just kept getting sessions and I was persistent and, you know, it was great, so.
I just want to get back to kind of, you were talking about timelining and things like that. After I started this, I really started kind of in the depths of adrenal fatigue. It was really tough to get through the class. And, you know, I can't point to like, oh, the next day or the next week for me, but I can tell you that I finished my training in 2013. By 2015, I was traveling the U.S. I drove 9,000 miles, did all kinds of cool trips by myself in the car. You know, I did photography and all kinds of stuff. So I was really back to really living in 2 years. And usually with adrenal fatigue, their timeline is more like 2 to 5, 2 to 7 to really get back. And so I really believe a lot of that had to do with addressing the emotional stuff, lowering the cortisol by dealing with the fear and the emotions. So yeah, it may seem slow, but it's way faster than anything else out there.
Sure. For me, I just tapped at home by myself. I didn't ever think that I was so sick. I didn't ever think that I would ever work again or anything. You know, as a registered nurse, I loved what I did, and all of a sudden I'm isolated, bedridden, and I can't even tolerate daylight or sound. You know, so it was pretty rough. But when I found Robert on YouTube, and I'm stubborn, I'm like a dog with a bone when I find something, you know, I'm gonna do it. And I did, I persisted and I did it every day. I had things written on the steering wheel of my car to help me tap while I was driving. I had it on my fridge. I had my happy journal goes everywhere with me because when I started, I could not remember one happy memory. Not one. And I've had an amazing life. I have an amazing husband, my children. I've had some really good things happen to me. I couldn't remember one. So if you're starting a happy journal, go full force with it because mine is never far from me, ever. But mine, I started, it was end of October, early November, 3 years ago. And I was very fatigued. I wanted to die. I was just in the worst The isolation was even worse. I had left my job, so I had MCS. I used to bargain with God. I used to say, just take the MCS away and leave me with the fibromyalgia, because then at least I could go visit people or someone could come visit me. But with multi-chemical sensitivity, I couldn't be in the same room with someone who had a scented deodorant on. I would get confused. It was horrible. I couldn't go anywhere. And if I left my home, I wore a mask. And so for me, it happened really quick. I tapped like a crazy woman. And within 2 weeks, like, I could feel the depression lifting. I could feel my energy getting better. And so that just encouraged me to tap more. And I had created this perfect little world for myself, which was my home. No one could come in unless they met the recommendations, that there was nothing scented on them. We got all the chemicals out of the house. We went organic. So I had created this perfect little bubble of a world that I should have been able to heal. But I just got sicker. So if you're creating this perfect world and leaving everything else outside, then that should be a big red flag that, you know, life is meant to be lived. So as I've started doing FasterEFT, so this was November. For Christmas, I bought hiking boots. My husband and I were hiking like 5-kilometer mountains and up and down. And I had no post-exertion fatigue. And before, I could not walk the length of myself, which is not very long, you know, without getting very tired. So it was very fast for me, and it was unbelievable. It was hard to believe because I had tried everything. And so, yeah, if you guys are, you know, don't give up. Don't, just keep going, because life is meant to be happy and healthy and lived and full. And I did it alone in my room with Robert. You know, we would tap constantly. Right, Robert? Mm-hmm. But I had my iPad and my list every day, and I was home. I was disabled. I was able to do it. I had the time, and I just invested the time, and just slow, and being able to go back to my boys' basketball games and go to things like that, you know, and so even though I had this perfect little bubble where I felt safe, I didn't heal. I got sicker. I got more depressed. I wanted to die. And now I'm, you know, I'm going on to level 4 next June of FasterEFT to become a practitioner. And I'm just so excited about that, because I never ever thought that I would ever get back to doing something again, and I'm helping people. Mm-hmm. So don't ever give up on yourselves. Don't ever, because this man, he discovered it. This is it. This is the #1 stress tool out there. Mm-hmm. Don't stop. So I was working so much on myself with Robert, and my iPad went everywhere with me. I think I said last time, even if I was in the tub, Robert was with me. I was, you know, tapping on myself, in my bed, in the car, everywhere. And so Gary, Robert's really a part of our family, you know, because so Gary would come home from work and he'd say, "So what did you and Robert talk about today?" And it was true, because, you know, I'd say, well, you know, because I watched every video. Even videos that I didn't feel that even pertained to my situation, I went into them and something would trigger me, and I would stop the video, and then I would tap on what was bothering me. But I'd never leave the room until I felt a shift, or I got a flip, or you know. And so, you know, being stubborn and persistent can be really, yeah, life-saving. So Robert is a part of our family. He always will be. You know, my family knows who Robert Smith is, and he saved my life. Yeah.
Good job. Give these guys a big hand. All right. So the question is, do you have any questions for these ex-sick people? All right, we've got one right here.
Yeah, I just have a quick question regarding supplements. So a lot of you probably, you know, had nutritional deficiencies, I take desiccated thyroid and hormone supplements, all that stuff. And so is it better when you're making the commitment to treat your emotional issues to just stop supplementation? Does it have more of a powerful effect?
I tend to be pretty pragmatic about things like that, and just this is my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist or anything. You can. I see things like that as a bridge for while you are healing. Over time, as I've gotten better and better, I've decreased my supplementation by a great deal. There's a lot I don't do anymore. So I think it's smart to pay attention to what's currently going on. But I would also advise you to not be putting your faith in the supplement, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to speak to that?
Very good. Anybody else?
I took so many supplements, and like Jean said, I kind of had, if I don't take this, this is going to happen. If so I eventually weaned off of everything. I kind of didn't want to take anything because I wanted to be clear and not be able to blame anything or give anything else the credit for it. But I did that over a period of time and with doctor supervision and approval with all of that. Because when I came home, I wanted to just throw all my buckets of medicine into the trash. And it was a glorious day when I finally did. But I did take some time to go off of everything. But I rarely supplement anything anymore. I really feel like our bodies, with proper nutrition and they can heal anything and do anything. I believe that. That's my belief system. So I don't really feel like I need supplements. Although I have taken, I'll take some calcium here once in a while, but then I don't really put much hope in it. So it's more of a hobby sometimes, if anything.
Now,
Great, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Another thing too, guys, you have to understand, we're not doctors. Anything you choose not to do, you better ask your doctor, get permission, just in case. Because there are some of those drugs that people put you on, if you go off, they could really jack up your chemistry. So always ask your doctor.
But find a doctor that will work with you. If you've got a pill pusher doctor and who's convinced that you're sick and need to keep... I had to move away from my Lyme doctor. So what I came off of and how I titrated off of all of that stuff was actually through a different doctor, because I wasn't any more in alignment with where she was going, and she started to fill my head full of this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and I was like, ooh, nope, I'm going to move away from you. And I got with somebody who said, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on everything, but we will take you off of this stuff as you want, and we'll just monitor.
Very good.
Heather, you mentioned something something I found very interesting. The last thing you said was that you had that confidence and knowing that you were okay, you're healed. Would you call that, is that the placebo effect? And is it something, is it the result of doing FasterEFT, practicing it? Tapping on your fears, tapping, on all of that. And is that feeling, I guess, conducive to healing? And is it sustainable? So when you go with that knowing, you just know, is that, and that's for all the panel. I don't know if it's a personal thing but I've heard this before, that you have to know. It's kind of like you totally believe in it, and I believe that's what FasterEFT is about, the placebo effect.
It probably is the placebo effect, but it works for me.
Yeah,
so that's the
I'd like to say this. What is the placebo effect? The mind's great ability to heal itself. But see, from the medical point of view, it's fake. So you have to understand, we know it's the power of our mind. So you can use your mind to heal yourself. So there's that when you throw this placebo word around, it has different meanings now. We have the real meaning. It's the great ability to heal ourselves. Science has proven that the placebo effect, which is the mind's ability to heal itself, has been very successful. So just be aware of this word when you throw it around. I don't use this word out there in the world because when you say placebo, it means fake. Okay, just be aware of that. But science has proven that the placebo effect is very effective. So.
And I believe that I'm well, and part of that was that beginning, little click in me that of how powerful I was. I mean, can a sick person really do all that I did? It took so much effort for me to create all those diseases, see all those doctors, have all those things that I had. That took so much time and energy. So I was super powerful already. I was just putting it in the wrong direction. So I didn't want to produce sick anymore. I wanted to produce health. And I had all the skills and all the power to create the most amazing life that I wanted. Things that I didn't know I could get, I can get now. Like POTS, never heard of it before. I got it. Whoa, what if I turn that the other direction? I live on Maui now. I didn't even know to ask for that or to create that. I would love to live on a tropical island, and bam, now I do. I am a powerful creator. A sick person can't do that. I can produce sick, but I don't want to anymore.
But they're producing a great illness. I mean, she's a great creator. We're all creators, every one of you. Well, what are you creating? If you don't like what you got, you just redesign your head.
Okay. My other question is, I know it's easy to say, go find another doctor who will support you. I personally haven't been able to find one. And managing a health issue for me is easier than seeing the doctor, managing myself around it. So I kind of like fall into paranoia and depression for 3 weeks after seeing a doctor. And so every time I see the doctor will tell me, so do you have the symptoms? And I'm like, I don't have any symptoms. So last time he was like, you've waited for a long time, you should have a symptom. And I'm not exaggerating. That evening, I had the hugest rash for 2 weeks. But the thing is, but I had to do a reality check. I don't know how I did it because I was really in bad shape mentally. It's when I stopped for a minute and thought, am I sick? Am I dying? Are things happening to me? And then I was like, I really feel energetic, and actually part of me is happy and wants to do this. And I mean, it took 2 weeks, but they were steady 2 weeks. But so I'm just saying that any suggestion from the doctor, I'm very amenable to suggestions because I have fears. So my question is, seeing a doctor seems to be a problem for me, and maybe I should do an art of change and see what's behind it. Would you say? Because it's a legit. Why not? I'm thinking out of the box now.
Yay! Okay, so my question would be, what are you getting from the doctor? Who does the doctor represent?
Yeah.
In your life, you know what I mean? Doing an art of change on all of that, but saying, who do they represent? I mean, doctors they became literally not kidding you. I would say, oh yeah, my best friend, she was top of her class UVA, medical doctor. She knows everything, I know all these amazing drugs and medication because, I have all these symptoms and she's my best friend, and then we've got this other best friend and he just happens to be a doctor too. And just in case if I'm really bad, I can call them and they can give me, a steroid because now I'm swelling or, whatever. But what are they filling? What need are they meeting for you? Is it your dad? Is it your mom? Is it connection,
or maybe you find love there. You need somebody to tell you what to do.
Yep.
Could be your dad. Who knows? Again, it's interesting. You have no symptoms until you go see them. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're allergic to doctors.
Also, I think we rely on doctors to confirm or deny disease for us. We think that they have the power. We give them the power. So I've just taken that back, and I'll tell them, well, that might say that. You just give me some time to take things back into my hands, and I'll change it. I just am going to have them confirm what I already know. So I have to change it within me. So it's my stuff, and you can change it. You are powerful enough. Our bodies are powerful enough. I've seen it happen personally with tons of clients. I mean, we're talking about things that people say are not curable, that are gone. There's no trace of them. Mm-hmm. So it is possible.
Yeah.
Just an interesting thing. I had the same kind of interaction with doctors as you, so I totally understand where you're coming from. there was a study done, when another FasterEFT practitioner told me about it, and it was about people who live to very old ages, and the 3 things that allow them to do so: purpose in life, kind of living in the moment, and staying away from doctors. So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Working as a nurse, excuse me, and being around doctors so much, doctors their hands are really tied in a way because they're trained to prescribe a medication or cut something out. Those 2 things are the main things.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to do your own research in a way, not too much, but some. And if you're involved in tapping, like when you get it that you can heal your body, that your body knows exactly how to heal. You know, that's where the magic is.
Yeah. Now you have to understand this is a business. The medical system is a business. You have to understand that. And in order for the business to float, they got to have people to work on. You have to understand this is also a belief system. This is a thinking system. So you just have to be conscious of this. And there are good people in all systems, and they are also trained to see certain things a certain way. That means if I'm a hammer, I see nails everywhere. So you just have to realize there is this thinking system there.
Well, I guess I just have to say, I was thinking, do I say something or not? But I am a physician, and I'm here. I've been practicing for 30 years. I'm a psychiatrist, and I'm very pleased to be here. I've always been in my life, I'm an osteopath, a DO. I think DOs tend to be a bit more open, but I'd like to say I wish that for those of you who are connected with doctors, not all of them are bad. I would like to believe that they're people who are open-minded. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. So maybe it's about reaching out and letting those doctors know. And I think the ones that are resistant are really coming from their own fear. What is possible if we put the opportunity, the option of healing oneself into people's hands, and then maybe the world will be a better place and we'll all be a lot healthier. So I would encourage people to reach out to the people that they do see, search around, the people are there, those people, they're out there, and introduce them to FasterEFT.
Thank you. Very good. Any other questions?
Medicine will work better if you combine it with tapping. Robert always says, all of a sudden my antidepressants seemed to work after I started tapping.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened was that I went to see a doctor and I wanted a certain outcome, which was not to operate. And I was able to tap and get the necessary knowledge, and I went to see the doctor, and she told me the wonders of the operation. I said, well, yeah, but let's look at these papers that I brought, this research that I said. Oh, and she said, yeah, I don't think we need to do that. So I think you can, if you are under treatment and you tap, your outcome's going to be better. Like,
oh yeah,
chemotherapy is going to work better, or whatever. And I had gout thing, and I had to take some medication for it, but I didn't have to take that much medication. So it seemed like I combined both. So I think we want to take the best of, yeah, and fire your doctor. I fired people in my life before. Fire your doctor, get a different one if you don't like him, or remote tap for him that he'll be relaxed and happy when you see him.
Yeah, very good.
Another thing you can do.
Yeah, very smart. It's something you need to take home with you and make sure whatever you do with the medication, make sure you get approval or get guidance on it. Do not go off of any medication. Now, if you're taking your herbal substance and you know that whatever that is, just be smart. Remember, your mind has a great ability to heal itself. It's been doing it for centuries. So what you want to understand too is your belief system will either hold you back or push you forward. So if your current belief system isn't healthy, go change it. All right, and also invest in yourself. Because one of the things that I find so very interesting, there's a lot of people who are doing sessions and the sessions are really great, but their constant thoughts every day is I'm sick. So no matter what a FasterEFT practitioner or eutaptics practitioner will do, if you're practicing, rehearsing, and focusing on what's wrong, it will negate all the other work. The power of your belief will hold you in it or release you from it. So it's very important. It is you. Now again, paying attention to what you're doing within yourself, because it is the power to heal itself. And it's just how it works. So give these girls a big hand. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.